Good morning all. I am Dr. Nyanambal, coordinator of this program. So first of all, I welcome you all for this FDP. Thank you for your interest in joining this program. I request all the participants to mute your mic and to turn off your camera. So today's session will be handled by Dr. MP Selvan from NIT. He will join soon. And I request all the participants to attend the common inaugural session arranged by AICTE. I will share the link in chat box as well as it will be shared in our WhatsApp group. So afternoon session again you may join at 2:30 p.m. Thank you for your interest. If you have any query, you may give your comments in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you all. Sir, welcome, sir. Our resource person has joined. Welcome, sir. Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yes, madam. Very good morning.
Good morning, all. On behalf of Atal and Kalen College of Engineering, I welcome you all for this 5 days faculty development program. So, morning session, we are having the resource person, Dr. MP Selvan, National Institute of Technology. I am having great honor to introduce our resource person. Dr. Selvan sir is currently working as Associate Professor in the Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, NIT Trichy. He is associated with Hybrid Electrical Systems Laboratory. He is a life member of ISTE and IEI and senior member of IEEE. He holds a PhD degree from IIT Madras. He has 19 years of teaching and research experience. He has published more than 125 technical research papers. His research interests include distribution system analysis, distributed generators, microgrid, smart grid, demand side management, computer applications to power system analysis, and IoT applications to smart grid. He investigated 4 research projects which are sponsored by DST, Power Grid, National Institute of Wind Energy, and Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, but rupees 87.73 lakhs. He supervised 4 PhD and 2 MS scholars and co-supervised 4 PhD scholars. Presently, he is the Associate Dean of NIT Trichy. So with these few words, I welcome you, sir, and I hand over the session to our resource person. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Good morning, participants. Could you see my slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good morning, and I thank the organizers of this Atal workshop for giving me an opportunity to introduce you Smart Grid. So I would like to take my discussion from the evaluation of electric grid, and then we will slowly move into the concepts of smart grid and needs of smart grid. And we will be having various lectures in this program to understand the application of different technologies to realize the grid into smart grid. So I'm going to give a brief introduction about the evolution of electric grid in India. During our independence, the installed capacity of India was 1362 megawatt. That is approximately say 1.5 gigawatt approximately. Then during independence, we had regional wise grids. Even now we have regional wise grids, but they are integrated synchronously or asynchronously. But during independence, it was not the case. Grids were operating separately. Each region had their own power generating stations as we have now and their own loads. They were trying to match the demand and generation without any problem. So in that case, as the load grows or the demand varies, then there is a difficulty to generate power. So people had chosen to shut down the loads. There was no chance to draw power from other region or other states. This was the case. Then the load was keep on growing. So when the load demand was keep on growing, the generation sector also introduced different technologies and developed a lot. By doing that, the generation capacity or the installed capacity was increasing year by year, and by 2017 March 31st we had 326 gigawatt 326 gigawatt. So approximately 60 years after independence, the demand had grown enormously. Similarly, the installed capacity increased by approximately 300 times. Say that is 1 gigawatt, here I have 300 gigawatt, approximately 300 times, or very exactly if we speak, okay, 250, 260 times, there is a development in the installed capacity. Why I am concentrating this is that shows the growth of the country, development in the industry, population growth, development in the transportation sector, development in the agricultural field. That's why the electricity demand was growing. Actually, the growth of the country is decided by many factors. The per capita energy consumption is one of such factors. Per capita energy consumption. So if we consider 1947 and 2017, of course, population also increased. Simultaneously, the energy consumption also increased, which indicates that there is a growth in per capita energy consumption. That's why we say that India is developing. Per capita energy consumption should be keep on increasing. In that case, we are growing or developing. By 2018, India reached 344 gigawatt of installed capacity. Out of 344 gigawatt, 25% of the power generation was contributed by central government, 30% by state-owned power generating stations, and 45% by private producers. See, almost 50% the private power producers started developing power plants. This happened after 2003 Electricity Act, where the independent power producers are permitted to generate and feed power into the grid. So independent power producers, IPPs, they are able to use existing transmission infrastructure to transport power from one place to another place where the demand is there. This concept is called as transmission open access. The transmission infrastructure is provided by the government. Say in India, the large size grid is installed by Power Grid Corporation, Power Grid. So that transmission infrastructure can be used by any power producers. They can inject power into the grid based on the demand. So this facilitated the private power producers to join in power production business. So as I said, it is a business. So every day there is an electricity market running. Every state should submit their bid for purchasing electricity if they need from central power plants. If they are self-sufficient with state-owned generations, then no problem at all. So first of all, I would like all of you to make clear what is state generation plant, what is central generation plant, if you are not aware. If you are aware, then it is good. Otherwise, I give an example. For example, you consider a thermal power plant located at Thoothukudi Thermal Power Station. In short, it is called as TTPS, Thoothukudi Thermal Power Station. This is owned by Tamil Nadu Electricity Board. It is a state-owned power generating station. In Mettur, we have power generating station. That is a state-owned power generating station. But you consider NLC, Neyveli Lignite Corporation. Though it is located at Tamil Nadu, it is not owned by state government. It is a separate body. It is a separate Neyveli Lignite Corporation. It is a separate corporation. But Tamil Nadu can purchase power from NLC. You consider a nuclear power plant located at Kudankulam. It is a central power generating station. Tamil Nadu will have a share, but Tamil Nadu cannot use the 100% of the power produced. Tamil Nadu cannot decide how much power that nuclear power plant has to generate tomorrow. It is not decided by Tamil Nadu State Electricity Board. But Thoothukudi, Mettur, Tamil Nadu Electricity Board can decide how much they need to generate. Private power plants. If you are a owner of a cement factory, say, or a paper processing industry, then you can have a power plant on your own. Why I said cement factory? You can see power plants running in cement factories. If you go to Ariyalur, which I have visited, I do not know about Ramco Cements, which is near to this particular institute. Maybe they may also have a power plant. In Ariyalur, I visited Dalmia Cement Factory, where they have their power plant. If they wish, they can sell power to the grid. But for that, they have to make an agreement, and the IPPs should follow the agreement, but they can sell. So this power can be purchased by Tamil Nadu state government. Not only Tamil Nadu, any other state can also purchase from Dalmia Cement Factory using the existing transmission lines. So one day before, they have to decide whether I'm going to buy from other states or other private power producers. Then I have to bid. That fellow will give me what is the selling price of electricity. Then if there is a mutual understanding, if I am ready to buy that power at that price, okay, then I can buy. But when I make this financial transaction, this power transaction will not be approved at all. One more stage it has to go. There is a control center available, which is called as load dispatch center. So they will take care of the security of the power system. If I purchase power from, say, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu State Electricity Board is purchasing power from Maharashtra, it has to travel through the transmission lines. So when it is transported, as soon as the Tamil Nadu sees demand, the Maharashtra fellow will generate. I can have a generation demand match, but this power has to flow through the given transmission line. Will this power flow make the transmission line overloaded or not? That should be checked. Who will check that? The power system operator sitting at the load dispatch center is the responsible body to check that. So if there is no security issues, there is no overloading in the system, then they will permit this transaction. And this will be approved. Tamil Nadu state will receive an agreement that you can buy power from Maharashtra. That Maharashtra power generating station will receive, you can generate power at this time for Tamil Nadu, that will be used. Why I am saying the time? Because the electricity is the energy which cannot be stored in bulk. If I want 500 megawatt of power, I have to generate 500 megawatt at that time. Nowadays, the storage technologies are improving, but still in that large scale, we do not have an economic storage technology. Of course, Tesla is trying to install battery banks in a large scale. Right now, in real time, in the practical operation, such energy storage is not available. So, as soon as the electricity demand is increasing, we have to use the energy what is generated. That's why the time is important. So, when Tamil Nadu expects power, it should have done a load forecasting and it is expecting power. At the same time, the power producer with whom Tamil Nadu had made an agreement should generate. Then the grid frequency will not get affected. Otherwise, there will be a problem in the grid frequency. So this business is happening one day before the operation. That's how the Indian power sector is operating. So after 2003 Electricity Act, so many private power producers started involving in this business and they started selling. This private participation helps to regulate the grid as well as to involve in renewable power generating systems. Because when I become an IPP, I will try to use renewable energy compared to other form of energy sources. So since the government is also promoting the incorporation of renewable energy sources, IPPs are using renewable energy like solar and wind, particularly in India as well as Tamil Nadu. There are many projects going on to have a high capacity solar park, 50 megawatt, 100 megawatt. Recently, I heard that Anandapur in Andhra Pradesh is called as solar hub of India. They are having 500 megawatt of solar power plant and they are keep on increasing the capacity and the government would like to build a solar park of 1500 megawatt capacity in Anandapur. So it becomes a solar hub of India. Similarly, we can plan in each and every state. This can be done by the participation of private sector very easily. Constructing a thermal power plant or hydro power plant is not possible by a private power producer. That's why as you increase the private participation, the integration of renewable energy also growing in the grid. With that growth, by 2019, the installed capacity became 356 with approximately same ratio of participation by central, state and private sector. By 2020, March 31st, the installed capacity became 370 gigawatt. We are approaching 400 gigawatt by 2022. 400 gigawatt. Really, India became a large grid. And when the generation was growing like this, as I said, the load is also keep on growing. Because there is a load growth, we are thinking about the growth in generation. Otherwise, no problem at all. So load is also growing. This is a projected demand. It is expected that by 2030, we may have more than 500 gigawatt load demand. So more than 500 gigawatt we have to reach in the installed capacity too. I said by 2022 we may reach 400 gigawatt. Within next 10 years 500 gigawatt should increase. So the rate of growth of installed capacity should be 1 gigawatt per year. So not 1 gigawatt, 10 gigawatt per year, so that I reach 100 gigawatt by 10 years. Similarly, since the independent power producers are introduced, you can see the growth in renewable energy too. In India, from 2000 onwards, there was large integration of renewable energy sources. Even before, there was an integration of wind. Then later, 2000, solar power also was picking up. So it was growing. So now we are in 2020. Here, you can see that projected is 98 gigawatt from renewable by 2022. That is almost 100 gigawatt from renewable by 2022. And where by 2020 we have already reached 87 gigawatt, only 10 gigawatt approximately left out. So definitely we will achieve this 100 gigawatt by 2022. So 2030 we would like to have installed the capacity of around 250 So I was talking about the renewable energy growth. So it is expected that by 2030 we could attain around 250 gigawatt. In that, you look at this, the red one is wind and this green one is solar. So we are increasing the capacity of this solar continuously, that you can observe from this growth. Green is increasing continuously. And as I said, still we are running as regional grids. India is divided into 5 regional grids: southern grid, western grid, eastern grid, northeastern grid, and we have northern grid. Each and every regional grid, it has a headquarters or regional load dispatch center. For southern grid, the regional load dispatch center is located at Bangalore. From there, the total grid operation is controlled. And we have a national grid at Delhi to control the complete grid all over the country. And all these regional grids are integrated synchronously and asynchronously. If you look at the picture which is at the right hand side, you can see one green color, that is called a central grid, and the blue one is the southern grid. It was not synchronized long time, but still southern grid was connected to the central grid through HVDC lines, which are called as asynchronous connection. And recently in 2013, a 765 kV line is connected between Raichur and Solapur, which made the whole India as a single grid. After that, Power Grid started saying we are one nation, one grid, and one frequency. So Kashmir to Kanyakumari, though the operating frequency is 50 Hertz is the standard, in real time it may not be. It is varying between 49.5 to 50.05. That is the permissible range. In that range, the frequency was varying, but internally between the regional grids, north and south, west and east, we had different frequencies instantaneously. But after having this interconnection, if this connection is live, definitely we will have same frequency from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. Why I am telling all these things? When we think about smart grid, is it new? Is the concept new? Is our grid is not smart? How it is operating as a national grid? India is one of the largest synchronized grid in the world. So how are they operating? Yes, we have automated, sophisticated control systems in the generation sector. You could visit any generating stations if you get an opportunity. You try for an opportunity and visit if you are an electrical engineer and if you are an electrical engineering teacher. This is the picture of one of the power station located at Neyveli and the control room, what is available there. You can see that the generators turbine are located at one place, the left side figure. In the right side figure, you can see the control room, which looks like a software industry with a lot of computer screens and computers. You could see the complete control here. You can see the variation of frequency here. See what is happening in the boiler, you can see here. Boiler flame. Before 21 years, before 21 years, say in 1998-99, I visited Thuthukudi Thermal Power Plant. During that time also there were control rooms like this, but you cannot compare the control rooms. Both are doing functional wise, both are same, but the technology what is available now is very high end compared to the technology what was available during that time. Similarly, you can see the variations of frequency in real time. How much is power is generated and fed into the grid from that particular station. How much reactive power is generated at that time. Everything is monitored in the control room and they will be able to control sitting in the control room. See, you can see one engineer sitting here. He is the complete in charge of that shift. He is going to operate. Similarly, one engineer will be there for generator, one engineer will be there for turbine, and one engineer will be there for a boiler control. That's all. They will be able to control from this sitting in the control room. So most of the generating stations available in India has such sophisticated control systems, no doubt. Similarly, the transmission sector, of course, you visit any regional control centers or state level load dispatch center, you could see a large screen with displaying all transmission lines, parameters, how much power is flowing into that, what are the capacitors connected, in which substation inductor is available, whether it is switched on or switched off, and how much power is generated from each power generating station. Is there any overloading? Is there any under voltage or over voltage? In the screen you can see some buses are in green color. At the same time you can see some buses are in red color. So red color indicates that there is some violation either in the upper end or the lower end with respect to the voltage is concerned. So all these indications are available. It is not so easy. You have to, this is real time. So you have to acquire the data from the power plant, from the transmission lines, and it should be telemetered to this control center where it will be displayed. And they are the operators of the complete power system. People sitting there, they will be able to make commands from there either over phone or through online. They can even have a touch screen control, and they can connect or disconnect any circuit breaker which is far away from that particular place if provision is available. Power grid is operating now unmanned substations. So they will be able to make commands from the control center to open the circuit breaker in a substation. That is possible. So all the transmission sector in India is also having a good sophisticated control in order to ensure effective operation, to enable market transaction. I discussed about market one day before. The electricity will be sold as well as purchased. So for that market transactions, high-end communication is used, internet technology is used. And we have integrated operation of generators and transmission circuits. It is very important, integrated operation. But our grid situation is like this. If you look at this, we have generation here, and we have transmission here, and what is in this box? Say, I can say this is primary transmission, this is secondary transmission, and inside this box we have distribution, which is like a black box. Why it is black box? The measurements, real-time measurements are missing at this stage. Up to 110 kilovolt, the system is monitored very well. That's why you could see a screen like this. But below 110 kV, let it be 33 kV, 11 kV or 400 volt system, it is not monitored, and the data is not transmitted to any control center in real time. It is operated. If there is any overloading, there will be a trip of fuse or breaker. If there is a fault, the breaker trips, and the energy is accounted at the end of a month at the consumer premises. That's why the distribution system is considered to be a black box. Nobody knows what is happening inside. Somebody is pouring water into that, somebody is drinking that water. That's all. What is happening to that water? Is there anyone to take the water without paying money? Is there anyone to mix some dirty water into the system? That is not monitored very strictly. So this is one picture which you could see everywhere in the distribution side. So transmission tower will not be look like very clean towers, you can see, which was carrying very large amount of power. But in the distribution side, not only in India, many countries, you can see this kind of power distribution. So we have certain drawbacks in the system. One is the gap between generation and demand, problems due to renewable sources. Most of the renewable sources are integrated at the distribution level and they are intermittent in nature, so we cannot predict when they are going to feed power into the grid. That's why the grid faces a lot of fluctuating power. Similarly, we have only supply side control. If there is any deficiency in power, immediately a feeder will be disconnected at the substation. A feeder feeding power to a particular area will be disconnected. So the load is reduced. So supply side, the control is there. And we do not worry about that customers. What is their need right now? Without knowing that, if there is any deficiency in power, definitely the supply side, it will be disconnected. Of course, there are some customers, they have dedicated feeder without any intimation to them. We should not disconnect to that dedicated feeders. For that, the customer has to pay huge amount. So we have supply side control. No true real-time data in the system with respect to distribution is concerned. Please understand. That's why I have shown you the generation sector growth as well as transmission sector operation. Static loading limits of the transmission lines. At present, the lines are loaded to its transient stability limit. Thermal limit will be little higher than the transient stability limit, but you cannot load up to the thermal limit considering the stability issues. So people are thinking that why don't we have this loading limit as a dynamic quantity with the help of fax devices. Islanding, cascading and blackouts are happening now. These are the drawbacks in the present system. As well as the present grid is inadequate to handle tomorrow's growth, as well as distributed energy sources are increasing, and the grid should be able to accept this variable inputs, because the power output from the wind turbine, solar power plant or other renewable power sources are not fixed one. They are a variable feed. So such variable electricity or the variable power in large scale should be acceptable by the grid. And liberalization of electricity market. Already it is done partially. The unbundling of production, transmission and distribution activities unbundled. That's why we have, earlier we had Tamil Nadu Electricity Board as a single corporation taking care of production, transmission and distribution. But now we have TANGEDCO and TAN Transco. TANGEDCO, Tamil Nadu Generation and Distribution Company. TAN Transco, Tamil Nadu Transmission Company. It is unbundled. In some states, it is even unbundled differently. For example, AP or Telangana, if we consider, they have AP Genco, AP Transco, AP Disco distribution companies are separate. This unbundling liberalizes the electricity market. Now, a private person can participate not only in production, he can also participate in the distribution. I can own my own distribution companies. Using the existing infrastructure, only the operation alone can be taken care by the private distribution companies, which are slowly getting introduced. Tata Power is there, Reliance Power is there. So this makes introduction of private power distribution companies. So in order to accept all these things, the electricity grid should be having all these properties. The properties are predictivity, adaptivity, optimization, interactivity, and integration. Predictivity, it should be able to diagnose danger situations or malfunctioning before it actually happens. I should predict the dangerous situations. How do I predict? I should have tools to predict. I should know the present situation, and in the present situation, if anything happens, any disturbance happens, will the grid be stable? This kind of study is done at the transmission level, which is called as security analysis. But at the same time, I should look into this also. I should look into distribution side. I should have a prediction tools or condition monitoring tools. Adaptivity. I should have self-healing technology should be available. I should adapt myself. The human body is a self-healing one. If there is any wound happened in your hand or leg, even without applying any medicine, it will get cured. But only thing, it takes time. If you apply medicine, it's a catalyst for the curing process. Even otherwise, we will get cured. That is called as self-healing capability. But we want quick healing. So the grid also should have self-healing capability with quick actions. And optimization, we should have a good optimization tools to better utilize the assets as well as to reduce the losses which is happening in the grid. Approximately 20 to 30% power what is generated goes as transmission and distribution loss, which should be reduced as much as possible. Government is launching different schemes to reduce this loss up to 10%. On interactivity, consumers should be granted with visibility to full access of energy price. Now, I said the electricity market is going on only at the transmission level, high bulk power transaction, but not at the retail market. We are paying a fixed tariff, independent of the month of the year, independent of the season, we are paying the fixed price. If there is any competition introduced in the electricity distribution, there will be a chance to get different kinds of tariff, cheaper power, like what we get now for data, internet. And we want to integrate monitoring process, control, protection, as well as the maintenance of distribution system. This integrated operation, all these things are required. So what is the required change in order to achieve all these things? The existing power system network should be provided with two things: information exchange and intelligence. So when I say here existing power system network, please remember that I am talking about the distribution network. Other sector, transmission side, we have good amount of information exchange and incorporation of good amount of intelligence. So when you integrate these two technologies into distribution system, then we get the grid into smart grid. So now I would like to show you the definition given by different countries. A smart grid uses digital technology to improve reliability, security, and efficiency of the electric system from large generation through the delivery systems, that is the distribution system, to electricity consumers and a growing number of distributed generation and storage resources. So we are going to apply different technology into the operation of power system. What are the technologies? In definition of different countries, it is told differently. This is USA says very simply, you allow the incorporation of digital technology. And European Union says you do an intelligent integration. So we wanted to have artificial intelligence in the operation of distribution system. US says you employ digital technology. Then UK says very clear-cut definition that you have to sense, then do some embedded processing, then do digital communication. For what? To make the grid observable, controllable, and fully integrated system. So we are going to use different technological solutions into the power system operation. Then the grid becomes smart. So in this way, our Indian government also has given a very good definition for smart grid. I would like to share with you. Smart grid means an electricity network that uses information and communication technology. We are very clear. Of course, I am going to use ICT, information and communication technology. Why do I need ICT? To gather information from distribution systems, mainly from every consumer, from every distribution transformer, from every feeder. I gather information and act intelligently. So I need an intelligent system. Artificial intelligence should be there in an automated manner. I don't want much human intervention. It should run automatically. Why do I want to do all these things? To improve the efficiency of the system, to improve the reliability, economics, and sustainability of the system in all the sectors, say generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity. But of course, I said generation and transmission already they achieved this. So the concentration of the Indian government is towards the improvement of distribution system in all these smart grid projects. So very simply, we can think that smart grid means integration of the invention of these two scientists. Left side, you could see Alexander Graham Bell. Right side you can see Thomas Alva Edison, who is the inventor of power system, and here Alexander Graham Bell, the telecommunication. So now we are trying to use the inventions of telecommunication in the operation of distribution grid. Please remember. That's why I want to stress this statement in the next figure. People may ask question, did I not use communication in the operation of power system? Till now, it's the first time I'm going to use. Not at all. We were using communication system in the operation of power system in the past as well as in the present. I'm using communication systems in the operation of power system. But what is the expected future? You see the dotted lines which represents the communication, these dotted lines, which is extended up to the consumer. I want the real-time measurements of the power consumption of every consumer to the control center. I want to introduce distribution control centers, not only transmission control centers, right? All these data. So this is the extension of communication technology up to the consumer level along with the power lines. That is what the motto of smart grid. So we have different technologies in smart grid like AMR, SCADA, distribution automation, demand side management, incorporation of distributed generators, and distribution facts, PMUs. All these are going to be incorporated in the smart grid in different ways. So you can compare the present grid with the expected smart grid in different ways. How the expected customer participation, we wanted to have the customers to participate and contribute to the grid. And we wanted to have more distributed generation. We wanted to have a market flexibility. Customers should they should subscribe different tariff packages like what is happening in communication system. And we should accommodate different kind of loads. They have self-healing capabilities. This is what expected in the smart grid. So in short, we can say that what is the expected outcome of smart grid? Smart grid enables utilities to increase energy productivity and power reliability. I want reliable power while empowering customers. Customers should be empowered. They should be given importance to better manage their electricity usage and the costs through real-time information exchange, which is missing now. There is no real-time information exchange between the customers or the customer building and the distribution control center, which is the expected outcome in the smart grid. So for that, what are the things we have to do? What are the technologies we have to use? How do we achieve that? What are the challenges available in front of us to achieve this? Will be discussed in the another session. So I'll take 2 minutes. If you have any queries in this session, we can have a very small discussion, and there is a inauguration function is expecting you to join.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for our wonderful session. Sorry for the interruption, sir.
No problem, madam.
Participants, we are very sorry for the interruption. Request all the participants to join in YouTube for common inaugural session. If you have any queries and doubts, you may ask our resource person during our afternoon session. Thank you, sir. We will join together at 2:30 p.m. Sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.